For 20 years, my life was a cycle of antiseptic smells, fluorescent lights, and the constant ache in my lower back. I am a nurse. I've seen the beginning of life and the end of it, but nothing prepared me for the middle, the part where I'd lose everything I worked for. My son, Jason, was my heartbeat. When he got into medical school, I felt like I had won the lottery. I didn't care about the cost. I sold my rental property, the one I bought to be my safety net for old age. I drained my 401k, ignoring the heavy tax penalties for early withdrawal. Every single month, I sent him $5,000. I moved out of my comfortable home into a cramped one-bedroom apartment just to save on rent. I ate rice, beans, and canned soup so Jason wouldn't have to worry about a single cent while he studied. I worked double shifts, sometimes 16 hours straight, standing on swollen ankles just to make sure his tuition and his downtown studio were paid for. I was proud. I told everyone at the hospital, my son is going to be a doctor. He's going to save lives. He sent me photos of himself in scrubs, standing in front of hospital wings. He told me about his anatomy exams and his rotations. I believed every word. I lived for his success. The world ended for me on a Tuesday afternoon at the local grocery store. I ran into a woman named Mary. I knew her son had been friends with Jason. We were chatting by the produce section when she said, "It's so wonderful that Jason and my son are doing so well with their entertainment company." I froze. Entertainment company? I asked, my heart beginning to race. No, Jason is in his 3rd year of residency prep. He barely has time to sleep, let alone run a company. Mary looked confused. She told me Jason and her son had been living together in a luxury penthouse for 3 years. They weren't studying medicine, they were building a DJ empire. They threw massive parties every weekend. She thought I was the cool mom who was bankrolling their startup. I walked out of that store without my groceries. I drove to the medical school, my hands shaking so hard I could barely steer. The registrar's office was cold and overlooking the city. I could hear the bass of the music before I even knocked. When Jason opened the door, he wasn't wearing scrubs. He was wearing a designer shirt that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. The apartment thief in designer clothes. I left that penthouse without saying another word. I realized then that my son was gone. The boy I raised didn't exist. In his place was a predator who viewed his own mother as an ATM. I contacted a lawyer, Samuel Cartwright. He was blunt. "This is fraud," he told me. The smell of the hospital at 4 in the morning. I told them about the night I cried in my car because I was too tired to walk up the stairs to my apartment. But I did it anyway because I thought, Jason signed the papers. His hands were shaking. I haven't spoken to him since that day. The first check for $15,000 hit my account 2 weeks later, followed by the monthly restitution payments. It's not the $500,000 I lost, but it's a start. I've spent the last year in therapy with Charlotte, learning how to stop blaming myself. I was a good mother. He chose to be a bad son. I've started rebuilding. I bought a small condo, my first investment in myself in a decade. I still work as a nurse, but I only work the shifts I want. I don't send money to anyone anymore. I've learned the hardest lesson of my life. You can't save someone who is using your oxygen to fuel their own fire. I am a survivor of my own son, and for the first time in my life, I am finally free. The legal settlement was just the beginning of my journey to peace. A week after the mediation, my phone rang with an unknown number. When I answered, it was Steven, my ex-husband. He hadn't called in 15 years. He confessed that Jason had contacted him, asking for money to pay the legal fees. But then came the real shock. Steven admitted that Jason had done the exact same thing to him 5 years ago. He had taken $10,000 from Steven for a fake internship. My own ex-husband knew our son was being dishonest, and he never warned me. He stayed silent while I spent years exhausting myself to fund a lie. I realized then that Jason's choices were a deep pattern. I told Steven to never call me again. I was done fixing the mistakes of others. I blocked his number and finally felt a sense of strength. At the hospital, my supervisor, Sarah, noticed I was struggling. One evening, she sat me down and shared her own story. Her own family had taken her savings years ago. "We give them everything," Sarah said, "and sometimes they just take it for granted." Talking to her made me realize I wasn't alone. I started attending a support group for people who had faced similar financial betrayals. Sitting in that circle, I heard stories that made me realize how common this is. One father had lost his home because of his child's choices. The group leader told me something important. "You didn't miss the signs because you were weak. You ignored them because you are a kind person. Kindness is a gift, even if others don't respect it." I took that advice and hired a new financial team to protect my remaining assets. I started looking at my life as a new project. Every month when Jason's payment arrived, I didn't touch it. I put it into a special account called the Future Fund. I used the first year's savings to take a quiet trip to the mountains. I spent 7 days in silence, hiking and breathing in the fresh air. I realized that for 30 years, I had lived for everyone else. But in those mountains, I was finally living for myself. I wasn't just a nurse or a mother. I was a person who deserved happiness. Now, I sit on the balcony of my small, peaceful condo. I watch the sunset and realize that my life belongs to me again. My retirement won't be as big as I once thought, but it will be calm. It will be secure. I have found a new kind of wealth, the kind that cannot be taken away by lies. I am no longer waiting for someone else to make things right. I have made them right myself. I have built a life from the ground up, and this time, it is built on a foundation of truth and self-respect. I am finally moving forward, and the path ahead looks bright. We started digging into the truth, and what we found was heartbreaking. We met Joshua, Jason's business partner, who was shocked to learn where the money had actually come from. Joshua thought Jason had a trust fund. He had no idea I was working double shifts as a nurse to fund their lifestyle. When he turned over the financial records, the reality was sickening. There were $12,000 trips to Ibiza, a $40,000 luxury car lease, and tens of thousands spent at high-end clubs. My financial advisor showed me the real damage. Jason had effectively taken nearly $500,000 from my future. At 60 years old, I was facing the reality of working for the rest of my life. We eventually entered mediation in a cold, gray conference room. Jason showed up with a lawyer, trying to look humble in a plain shirt, playing the confused kid card. He gave a rehearsed speech about being scared to disappoint me, but I didn't let him finish. I stood up and read from my journal. I told the room about the exhaustion of the hospital at 4 in the morning and the nights I cried in my car because I was too tired to walk, yet I kept going for him. I looked him in the eye and said, "You didn't fear disappointing me. You feared losing your luxury lifestyle. You watched me exhaust myself for 3 years just so you could play music." The room went silent. My lawyer presented the evidence, the fake photos and scrubs, the intercepted mail, and Joshua's testimony. We had him cornered. If he didn't settle, we were going to the police with criminal fraud charges. He finally signed the papers with shaking hands, agreeing to a strict 8-year repayment plan and the immediate sale of his equipment. But the betrayal had layers. Later, my ex-husband called to confess that Jason had scammed him too, years ago. It was a pattern of deception I was finally breaking. I've spent the last year in therapy, learning that I was a good mother, but he chose to be a bad son. I've started rebuilding and bought a small, peaceful condo. I still work, but only on my terms. I've learned the hardest lesson of my life. You can't save someone who is willing to destroy your future for their own gain. I am a survivor, and for the first time, I am finally free.